Alright, I think we are live. I'm just going to real quick check YouTube. I'm new to this, evidently. YouTube.com. But this is End Simulation Live, the AQA skeleton code. I should have gotten to my stuff quicker. 2026. Today I want to do something different. How do I get to my stuff? Yeah, I'm clearly not prepared for anything. But okay, the section D stuff, there's obviously your knowledge of Python. You need to be able to code in Python, by which I mean you need to code quickly, sort of recognize problems. How do you do, which involves not just the basics, but like design patterns, like how do you do input validation. Think of it as like, you might know the notes, but you kind of need to know and practice the scales, because a lot of actually melodies are bits of the scales. And you apply them to different contexts. But there's a specific skill though to do well in any exam, but as it happens, paper 1 section D, and it is to actually know the mark schemes. And in any exam, like working to the mark scheme, it's a bit annoying. I gotta teach to the test and stuff, but content, I guess. How do I get to my lives? Okay, yes, that's the thing. Live, connect your encoder. I have done my encoder thing. No, we are on. Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm tripping. Right, so having verified, I should have set this up. All right, let's take some code. What I want to do today, though, is kind of practice some mark schemes. So the zigzag mark schemes are useless. What you want is the actual AQA mark schemes. And in order to demonstrate how you can get a whole bunch of marks, even if you can't do anything with the code, I'm going to use last year's, or maybe 2 years ago. I'm going to go to, you can't see, you get my browser. I should have prepared this as well. Physics and Math Tutor, our good old friend, which does more than physics and maths, because he also does past papers for computer science A-level, and many other subjects, and many other boards, but I want paper 1 AQA, and I'm going to take the 2024, that's nice. I actually hadn't seen that one yet. So this was Symbol Puzzle that we know and love. So let me download this and chuck it into Visual Studio Code. Yeah, and then we can open it in the stuff you can actually see. Right. Okay, and it's, yes, this was paper 1, Monday, 10th of June. Yeah, like yours, I think it was on the 10th, but it's a Wednesday this year. Whatever that is. I mean, we might choose. It's always good to kind of do like past figures, but oh, hello. Nice. So we had seen this in the electronic answer document. Also gives you information, because you see what kind of tables there are. And like it starts with there's a big table, but there's no headings, which is interesting. The bouncy number, that's the one that I've got a video about this, kind of section B bouncy number. All lives are, someone, Jezza453, which is like 33 more than 420, is asking whether the live will be uploaded, but like they stay up, if this is what you mean, kind of like you've got the replay, right? So if you miss it, you can catch up. Like I did one 2 days ago, but like at lunchtime, so no one was here. I was kind of I was doing a task live. All right, I want to talk about mark schemes. Well, actually, this is the question paper, right? So this is the bouncy number stuff, and then section C, let's look at the thing. Symbol Puzzle, I did a whole video series about this. I was kind of ramping up. This was 2 years ago. This is actually when I realized, particularly doing a live the day before, how much actual appetite and potential audience. So it's never the same audience year after year there is for AQA stuff. Skeleton code. All right, the first one is attempt puzzle in the puzzle class. Okay, I would probably need I'm being unfair here, because I would kind of need the code to see what gives. So let me also pull up the mark scheme. So skeleton, this is input validation, right? And they just want column by the looks of it, rather than even, do not need to check for the row number. So 5 mark to start with, right? That's typically an input validation, and you'll notice you have a bunch of like functions in the code, like there's a couple of things like get choice and get cell location that are not input validated, would be a good place for input validation. There's also a number of functions that are currently not being used by the code, and it looks like if I was to ask you to actually get to do something in there, this is where I would ask you to intervene. But the thing I really wanted to show you is the MS, not the Microsoft, not the multiple sclerosis, but the mark scheme of AQA 7517/1. Very exciting. All right, and let's jump straight to section D, page 10. I don't want to break I have a brand new mouse with a mouse wheel. I had to buy the whole mouse to change the mouse wheel. All right, what are we on? No, 1, 2, 3, 4. AABB, 5. Oh, they're all numbered like that. This is the thing table. This is a line of reasoning has been. This is an essay question clearly. Whatever. This is the bouncy. We're in section B. Now this is section C. Should have looked at the what number am I after? 12. No, 12. No, 11. Okay, 11 is here. Look at this, right? Create variable for average, total, and highest. Set to appropriate start. 11. Sorry, 11. Selection structure for select the correct condition with one boundary. So this is worded like this because they give examples. Sometimes they don't, but they have to support like 4 languages. But the point is that if you have an if, right, where you're validating that a number, right, this is input validation, so column needs to be between 1 and the number of columns, which this is something that could happen in end simulation, right, because we also have a grid. And this one as well, like, had a stupid thing with a grid that's modeled as a 1D structure. Yes, I think the 5 mark setup might very well be an input validation, but like maybe you're validating both row and column, hence the extra mark, right? Because like this one, 2 years ago, they did do 4 marker on validating only the column. The point is, like, if you do an if, literally, if you get an if and the correct condition, you're good. So like the repeating thing, if you're messing up or like this, whatever, but you don't need to get that right. The second correct condition in connection logic or second connection structure, which, oh yes, because it's just still, you're only validating column, right? But like it needs to be between 1 and the number of columns, right? That makes sense, right? You're choosing something on the grid, and the column number is to be between 1 and the number of the last column, which is the number of columns in the grid. So you get 1 mark just for having the right, like the value needs to be larger than 1. Like even if you forgot to cast it to an int or whatever, like the code doesn't need to run, but like if the marker sees an if with a larger than 1, bang, that's 1 mark. If you actually are clever enough to do larger than 1 and then smaller than the max column, bang, that's a second mark, which is like half of the coding marks here. So try all the questions for real, because there's so many of the marks are to be gotten just for trying. And this is where sort of, confidence and self-efficacy matters, but also practicing this kind of stuff. I think like your teachers hopefully, I don't know, might have gotten you to take a look. Maybe you've done mocks, maybe you've even marked the things in class to learn from the marking, but here we go. You should know this. So here we've got 2 marks. This is then the valid truth, gets more complex, and then everything needs to be right for the thing. Here you can do it with an iteration. So this would be like a while. If you do straight in the while, it's larger than what, right? Kind of, and again, you get 2 conditions, connecting logic, whatever, right? The 12, which is 12 is like average. You want to do average scores, is that right? Yeah, score of display the highest scores and the user's average score. So calculate the average number of puzzle attempts. So you kind of like, you're gonna need to store the scores, you're gonna need to sum them, you're gonna need to divide by the number. It's an average, right? Like average, you initialize at 0, you need something for the sum that you initialize at 0. Inside the loop, you kind of add to it, and at the end, you divide by the number of things. This is GCSE programming. Like, I'm not meant to be demeaning, but like that shouldn't be the difficulty here. The difficulty is to kind of do it in the right place so it works within the code. But the point is the marks are not to do it in the right place if it works within the code. The marks are just for like really broken down. Like I suppose edXL does a GCSE with paper. Theirs is the paper 2 is on computer and there's some coding questions. And so like look at this one. Mark scheme for the 12. Create variables for average, total, and highest, right? So you kind of get to, or create a list for the stores. So you need to kind of store that data. And then you get the how do you do the high score, right? Like if the score that the user just completed is larger than the high score, then the high score becomes that new like the score. But this is one mark for the comparison, 1 mark to actually set the new high score to that. So try all the questions. Try like writing something for question B. So I think sending a screenshot of something for question B, and like try each of the section D questions, because there's so many low-hanging fruits, right, that you can say, okay, so your test, you'll never get, there's always a mark for the test, and you're not going to get that one, right? But if you get, like 2, let's say just like the basic 2 marks, doesn't matter how many questions. This is why it's a bit unfair, because if there's like more questions with lower mark value, then that kind of like, this is why they probably only do 4 every year. This means that the scraping of those easy marks is easier to do and you can get more. But here you would have 11, 12, you get the section B, 11, 12, how many of them is there? Oh, mate. 13, 14, there was only 4, right? Yeah. Yeah, because it's the end. There's no question put on this page because it's the end of the paper. So you get 11, 12, 13, 14 for the section D plus plus the section B. And here there's probably like 2-3 marks per question. So that's kind of like 10, 15 total. I'm just kind of like, in broad stroke, like a dozen marks over a total of, it's 140, 100, right? So like there's 10% of the marks on the whole paper, including like the whole half that's theoretical, which are sections A and C. There's like 10% of the mark to be done by just literally having a go. And like, if you know some of the bits, well, if I do input validation, I'm going to need to compare, the value given to the minimum and then maybe the value given to the maximum, right? Like if you get like at least the beginnings of the ideas of how to do this and you write them as code, that doesn't need to run, like literally doesn't need to be syntactically correct. In Python, your indentation can be completely out of control. As long as you're not marked for there is a loop and those things are in the loop, the marker should not fail you for this because they're looking for like, is there an iteration structure? So like there's really an exam technique, which is annoying because it's annoying. It's unfortunate. I mean, like all assessment is problematic on many levels. I do think that there's an aspect where it's kind of unfair to ask young people to have to write code under stressful conditions, particularly since in theory this is something they might have just picked up like the year before, although nearly everyone does GCSE and has done programming before. But that's kind of why, frame like this, you understand why like there are those kind of marks. But the problem is that students freeze, panic. So Siddharth is asking, do you think if we put a screenshot of it working, we will get the screen capture mark? This is interesting, right? Like the way this is done. So this is a legit question that often, it's a point that I've made, like because the code doesn't need to run and you just need a screenshot of the test. Now, if you sort of fake the screenshot of the test, right, and your code, I guess as long as it looks vaguely legit, I suppose they might kind of throw an eyeball, but like if they're kind of like in a hurry, if like there's only 2 programming marks, but somehow you've got the perfect testing screenshot, I don't think the marker's gonna go. The problem in that instance is that frankly, I don't know, it's gonna depend on the code, but faking the test screenshot is sometimes like, you have to think of the expense of what it is. I wouldn't kind of, I would just kind of like proceed the normal way, do what you can, but it's important that you budget your time correctly so that, because then you can have a difficult decision to make, right? Like let's say you start and you're in the middle, you had the first question or second question of section D, and you're taking the time, and like you don't have a ton of time left. If you can't get it in, you need to think, I mean, they do recommend, right, kind of like 70 minutes for section D. You can proportionate, whatever. Like, I mean, the electronic answer document might be more useful for this, but section D is 11, 12, 13, 14 as we've established, and it was a 5 and 8. Yeah, it sounds like that, right? A 5 and 8, B, C, I'm going too far now. Okay, 5, and, 5 or 6, 11, I would panic. So this is not pleasant to have to think for it on the day, not doing 12, so that's 23, right? 11 and 12, and that's it. Is that it? No, wait, did I miss one? Oh no, it's a 14. There is a 14. Yeah, and 14, right? So that's 23 and 14, 37. So here, this is kind of like, you take 2 minutes to score a mark, right? There's 37 for 70, they recommend 70 minutes, think 35, right? But like each mark takes a lot longer to, so you can apportionate, right? Like, so my point is that this means half an hour, like tops, kind of 28 minutes. The 12 marks is 20, you double the number of marks to see, am I spending too long on this question? Because it's really important you try every single programming question, because every single programming question will have at least 1, maybe 2, 3 marks that you can get without the rest of the thing running. Yeah, I suppose you're right, the print, I don't know, sometimes they kind of want, like the testing, okay, like the end simulation thing, so that's asking, but if it doesn't work, it's just a print statement, it's just saying maybe it's not that, it's not that time consuming to fake the test screenshot, which I guess, but you got to remember like what your, like what does the simulation look like? Because first it's asking you for a number, you have to input a number, then it's going to start and give you the display of the menu, then you need to make a choice, it's going to display the menu again, sometimes it might display the simulation details, sorry, my hands are here, right? So like, in the case of a typical, we'll do a task in a minute, but like if you see the way they test the tasks in end simulation, there's a lot of text, right? Because you might have like the state of the grid, or like at least they might ask you, doing input validation, enter the wrong value, you should get an error, then enter the right value, you should go through, and that's a big print. And to fake it, try it perfectly, and it's just like, does this pass quick visual inspection? But the point is that because the mark is not guaranteed, because technically an astute enough marker might look at your code and say there's no way that's going to produce that screenshot. And if they do that and they don't score you the mark in the screenshot, then the time spent faking the screenshot has been a complete waste of time, because this is time you could have spent like scoring the first couple of marks in each of the programming tasks. So I hope that I might do like just a short on this, because apparently this is how young people consume information, but like I don't know how to really highlight if there's like a nugget that I can give you that's going to work every year. It's literally have a look at mark schemes of past papers, and you really realize that creating a new class, boom, right? That like ignore case and minor typos, right? But you will reject of a method. It has to, if they tell you to create something that's got a specific name, you have to use the specific name. It inherits something else. You can imagine that on simulator, right? You're gonna have at least one question with new on class, potentially a new entity class that inherits. And so like, you've already got 2 marks for writing class whatever bracket on, like classifying on bracket on, boom, that's 2 marks of the, this is a chunky one, right? Like this is a 13. Remember, you've got max 12 if code contains any error, which means that they expect like markers to just look at the code and run it in their head to see if it would error. But yeah, so like try the coding. I can't vouch for the faking of screenshots being a viable solution in practice, but it is technically a vulnerability of this particular assessment. Well, the Edexcel GCSE I was just talking about, that does their paper 2 on computer, you just like move the files to a folder, and then they kind of like, then the files get taken away. Having said that, they still never run the code, right? Kind of like the code gets printed out and someone marks it with a red biro. Right, we did 17 last time. I want to do an actual on simulation task. We're going to do task 18, I guess, because why not? We are 20 minutes in task. Yes, this was the diseased and healthy, and like weirdly some of them would die, but like one stage after, I'm not gonna go out too much. Move on. Ooh, a danger pheromone. I like this. When the food level drops too low within a nest. Oh man. A composition relationship. Do we know what a composition relationship is? All of the classes here have. Did I not have a? I'm not going to use the Gemini one, but like, because there's a nice one that's done already. Oh, it's in zigzag. Oh man, it's like there's a. Then simulation files. Yes, okay. Grid UML diagram. Cool. I mean, this one is mute. Yeah. A composition is this kind of connector. A composition means you create it inside the, I don't use the term parent class, but like the class you're composing into holds the reference. So in our instance, simulation holds all of the references. This is important because it's kind of like what knows, quote unquote, about what information. And this is when, if you want to make like the end behave according to stuff that's elsewhere in the grid or other classes of objects, the only object that knows about both is this one. So when you see this as well, this means that when the instance of simulation is deleted, having lost any references to those objects in memory, they also get garbage collected and removed from memory. So that's a composition, as opposed to an association where like they exist separately, in sessions separately, and somehow you kind of bind one with a reference to the other. Okay, danger pheromone, danger. All right, let's highway to the danger zone. Okay. Copy, paste, rename, and it says Z18, not pi. Close that. Let's have a look again. Control B to close this. Okay, we have danger pheromone, so that's going to be laid. It doesn't belong to anything. It is composed with the next class, so the nest is going to hold reference to them on the food level. Oh, right, we need a menu option, because of course this is the only way that this can be tested, because the problem with that simulation is that the only thing you can really see is when you ask for the display details. So often you will have like the task will involve changing the or like having some kind of new communication with the user, because otherwise you can't really inspect. You can make a whole bunch of changes that are very difficult to test. So when the drops below 50 unit and okay, so again, this is useless from a simulation perspective because the nest releases a pheromone, but like it doesn't affect the ant behavior at all. And the ant pheromone this feels slightly pointless. Like, why would the nest say, "Hey, I'm a hungry nest," where it is then? Pheromones are meant to mark space, but doesn't matter. Not going to question it too much. So it's a new danger pheromone class that inherits the pheromone class. So let's find the pheromone class. Pheromone entity. So like when entities get a row and a column, it belongs to an ent. It's got initial strength and decay. That's good because they've given us the values, and that's towards the end of the code. So here it's a class. Danger pheromone inherits pheromone colon, and boom, I've got 2 marks of the question already from the mark schemes we've gone before. What else do we need to do? Oops, no, that's not. I don't like this. Don't want this. Okay, danger pheromones. So that means I'm going to hard code this and not pass this constructor, right? Like the constructor it's not going to have an ant ID, because the constructor would take normally an owner, right? Kind of belongs to ant, so we're going to pass 0, and we're going to hard code this. So the init is just row and column like it is for the entity. Whoa, no. Init is with self row column, and it calls the super with initial strength 400, decay. What's the decay? $10. The danger pheromones is the composition relationship in the nest class. Yeah, sure. I can roll that one like that. Decay 10. I'm good. Okay, and that's it. Like, it doesn't really do anything. It's just like this object exists, and that's enough information. Like an ant, well, an ant couldn't detect it, but simulation class could make the ant behave differently if there was a danger pheromone. It doesn't really matter, but like literally this class is just this constructor. It's like the way it gets created and the fact that you have to be able to kind of see it and render it. That's kind of like the coding in this question. All right, so class state inherits modifying this class to introduce a danger pheromone attribute. Oh yeah, because it's in composition, right? So the class nest has a self dot underscore, because it's nice to have the place to plug it in, right? So like I'm going to call it danger pheromone. And like all thing that's not set, I start with none. It's nice to have none in Python to say, well, something's gonna go into that slot at some point. So we have like modified the attribute. It's effectively having this kind of stuff is kind of like declaring, because I'm initializing. I don't really need the initialization. I could say it on the fly, but at least it means that if we also query the nest, it's always guaranteed to have this attribute, although there might be nothing in it. There might be none. I also use this for, like the empty list when we start with the simulations get nest, pheromones, ants. We start with empty lists and then they get populated or not. Like, did I do list for the weather events? Was there several of them? I can't remember which one was like, I would have a new list. They all blur into one. Frankly, I feel like I've been doing this for like the past 2 weeks. It's kind of, yeah, it's fun. I'm guessing it's quite surprising to like you that I gotta sit this as like a painful A-level of a Wednesday morning in June, that like this is a hobby for me, but it is. All right, okay, modify advanced stage. This is our good old friend advanced stage. It's got so much of the logic. Class simulation, and then we search for def advanced. By the way, Control F is the best way to navigate the code ultimately, because they're going to tell you like go here, go there, or like if you need to inherit something, you search for the class quite well underneath. And this is where it gets a little bit. So the nest stuff is here, all right? In the advanced stage method of the simulation class, I've got an idea of like maybe trying to ask AI to do a flowchart of what goes on when you advance stage, because this is something I suggest you do in your own time, to be fair, because this is like important to see. We first do the pheromones and this deletion use this trick, then we first do the ants and we do kind of like transfer to the nest, ants picking up stuff. Is it in here? Yeah, it's in there, right? Because only the simulation knows about both food and ants. And this is where we modify, choose cell to move is really the magic that happens, and you modify this if you want to move out moving logic, but the nest is here, and like this just calls advanced stage. So we're going to have to, in each food, this is, I don't understand why I'm doing this in the simulation class, because I could be doing this in the nest class, because the nest has all the information that, I mean, nests have, remember, if you want to flex, this is also practical if you want to have a look at your class structure. The problem is that by default you need to fold everything, simulation entity cell, on equivalent work around nest. Yeah, food level, and this is private to the nest as well. I mean, nothing's really private in Python. Well, there's a getter, which returns it, and advanced stage. So I'm guessing, yeah, I'm going to use that getter and go back to my, right, let's go to my simulation advanced stage. This is this one. So the logic of feeding the ants and checking if you've got enough food to feed the ants and then culling, basically killing some random one. Sometimes you can kill like the queen out of starvation. Not great for the colony, because unlike in the UK, you don't have a king to take over. So point is that like, any kind of checking of the food level needs to be done after we've consumed the food. So I want to do it after the advanced stage, the call to advanced stage in the nest class. And for which I've got n is a nest, and I go if n.get food level, which I'm pretty sure is how it's, yeah, get food level. So if n.get food level, bracket, don't forget this one, if this is lower than, strictly lower, probably than 50, I think is the threshold, yeah. Drops below means like strictly smaller, than 50, then we are going to say n dot underscore. Danger pheromone, right, this is the new attribute we have on the nest class to take care of our new class, danger pheromone, at the nest, n.getRow. Do I have the row? No, I have the nest object. The nest object is an entity you can call getRow and getColumn. So this is why, right, the best way, not the only way, I hesitate to say that, but like if you really want to maximize the point, you kind of need to do the task, because this is when you sort of remember the tricks of like, this is how I get like the location. I mean, I'm guessing surely by now that should be kind of covered, but this is useful. That and in same location on the entity class is like super useful. That and get index as well to go back from this to the grid index in the simulation class. So if we create a new danger pheromone in this location that we've stuck onto the nest, and is that what we do? Is that it? If the food level rises back up, so I think I'm going to want some. What do you do? I'm just going to do like else n.underscore danger pheromone is equal, comes back to none. The nest is no longer in danger. That is done. New option 6 to the menu. Yeah, we love new options. It's like a classic. We've done that a gazillion times. So need fields. To get danger pheromone location method in the simulation class, list the location of nests with low food level together with how much food is left in them. This is nice. In fairness, I was about to complain, so I'm blanking here because like technically the simulation class shouldn't mess with a private attribute of the thing, but I've already done that. We're already kind of reading, well, certainly setting this attribute, just the reading of it, like we would like a getter, but the simulation class is just going to reach inside the nest, as it were, because it knows about each of its nests and then list them. So new option 6, get danger pheromone location. Make sure to, this needs to be, if they tell you something, like down to the capitalization, right? Like, so this is AQA style, it's Pascal case, you capitalize the first letter of each word, right? Right, so new control home, simulation. We know how to do a new menu option. It's a classic, elif choice equal 6. Is that a 6? If it is a 6, what do I do? I'm calling this new method that I'm yet to define, but this simulation dot get danger pheromone locations, and this does its own display because it lists location of nest of low food level. Cool. And then here we need a new menu option displayed. I mean, we have done this a number of times. So again, that's a design pattern that can't fail you, because like probably to do anything like substantive, right, kind of to the actual code, you know, objects, inheritance, like we're doing here, if to test it you need a new menu option, there's bound to be at least 3 marks on like, you got a new elif, you've got a new print for the menu option, and then like the branch of the elif calls the new thing. So in your 14 mark, or like whatever is the largest mark we're saving, 5, 8, 2 12s, I can believe that like 3 of the 12 will be kind of on a new menu option. So again, like it doesn't even matter what it is, right? You can, I would say you can probably even like go and start the very basics of each programming question just to make sure you score the marks, and then go back and do them fully. Again, it's time management. This is kind of a bit of a different, not specific to this exam, to be fair. Right, and so we're gonna need a method called that in the simulation class, which I'm just gonna put in here because it's after the constructor. This is the constructor, right? It tells me here. Okay, def, most def. Oops, well, fine, I'll take it. Well, it's def poetry, right. Self, obviously. Why? Yeah, because I'm inside the class, right? So I need this indented. And this is going to go for and in self._nests. So this is the list of nests and a private attribute in here, and then if and I can just do like this, right? Because, right, fine. If you want to do it properly, you can do this. If you want to, actually, technically, you should be, because you're comparing, it's a different type of compare, but like you can do is not none, colon, but really because none is falsy, I can just do this, right? So okay, it doesn't really matter, like we've created a new class, but this is just to check that there's something in this attribute. This could have been like literally true, or like the number 1, right? This gives us, this is not a, this is the problem, because like to do any meaningful simulation change task is like way beyond what you can fit into a paper 1 section D, right? Like the 12 mark. I mean, we have done already, I've done many tasks that are likely much more complex than the 12 marker you have, right? Like because again, like there's so many of those marks are due to those little things. And 2 minutes a mark. So 12 marks, 12 marker, 13 with the testing, that's, yeah, 26. Okay, so if there is a danger pheromone in the nest I am looking at in my for loop, then I want to add it to a list, but I don't have a list, you may tell. No, I'm just going to print, like some kind of caveman. F string, and I'm going to say nest at, and so I get n get row we know and love, and you know what's coming next, it's and get column, so this is going to say at xy only has n dot curlies, and this is the thing I used it earlier, it's get food level, and I think that's it. I guess that is that it. This is like, this is anticlimactic. List location of nest with low food together and food. Yeah, that's what I've done. List as in print. Well, get details, get array details, get cell details. Yes, okay. Any required. Oh yes, this is helpful because maybe that you could have told me this when in pheromone I should have also done a getter. Sorry, in nest I should have done a getter and a setter for the new danger pheromone attribute, because I think that would be valid for this bit as well. But again, zigzag task, like the way the questions are set, the way the mark scheme are set, absolute garbage. And there was this one, yeah, I think I said at the beginning, I think it was 14 at the beginning of the video, 13 maybe, 10, I can't remember. They all blur into one, but like there's one where like I was like, oh, this looks complicated, I wonder how they, because it's missing information, there's many ways to do it, and so I had to look at their solution, the zigzag kind of, you know, question answers, and that was completely broken. Like it's just, they were, yeah, that wouldn't have run, I could tell just looking at the code. So yeah, I mean, they do their best. In fairness, I'd rather have this exact test than not have them. Thanks, Craig and or Dave. Right, okay, so we just need to get the get area. Get cell details we haven't done much in yet, which is interesting. Because all of the stuff when we did get details and get area details, surely that's, you know, that like, is there a storm or is there like a forage around or a soldier, how many soldier rounds and so on. We really, if you want to be complete, you also should display it into the details of a single cell. but I'm guessing it's like the same thing, right? Because it's always the same thing. So in here, right, if there is a nest, yes, excellent, get nest in cell. So we just want to flag them or dangerously on food? I'm gonna call this DLOF for dangerously on food. So there is a nest. No, what have I done? Okay, nest in a space, right? And then I'm gonna then concat that after. Can I be an absolute barbarian and right? Okay, so here, this was like that, and I'm gonna put a this is crazy. Right in here, I will. Yeah, I do need to actually call it. So I'm gonna say n equals self dot get nest. Practical get nest in cell, right? You don't have to iterate. I mean, that's probably what it does. You iterate over the whole nest and find the one that's the same location using in same location of temp cell. That's the one we're testing. So this is the not none that we know there is a nest there and like nest. And in here I'm going to say get food level bracket bracket if. You can put ifs in line in Python. I don't use it super often. This might break. So, but let's see. Let's not Python. Okay, so let's say s equals an f string. Okay, let's a equal false. I say s is equal to an f string of yada yada, and then here I'm gonna say a if a else empty string, for instance, and then that should work because it's the curly. Well, maybe let's do an empty string like this. So yeah, and that worked. And if I do s yada and it's get the empty string, and if I set a to true and I say s, that didn't work. Oh, because it does it kind of replaces it the moment it evaluates the line. So I need to re-put the line in. And now if I say s, right, we see this time a is true, so it prints a. So this is kind of if, you need an else though, because if your condition is not met, you need an alternate value to fall back on. And as it's interpreted, this is going to get evaluated just as if you had an if in line. That saves you like 3 lines of code, and it's so elegant. So Pythonic. Oh my god, so Pythonic. Nest, and then do I put the food level? No, I won't actually display dangerously on food. Yeah, I'm gonna say DLO no on food exclamation mark if n dot underscore danger. I don't like it. Doesn't know it's a nest. That's why it doesn't do autocomplete. Which is where, like I've said this on the previous video. You Python people, as far as the 4 languages, sorry, that's 4, the 4 languages that the board supports and delivers the A-level in are slightly underserved because the loose typing of the Python language compared to the other, like C#, I believe, is there in Java? Or is it JavaScript? And Delphi? Question mark? Yeah, but compared to this, Python not being typed means that you kind of can't, it's going to do less practical, less useful auto-completion than in Java. It's going to depend on your ID, so ultimately it doesn't matter. Well, it does, but then just if and danger pheromone, else empty string. Right, and all I need to do is replace this line by this, and then is that get cell? Well, let's get the food level here. What do they want in here? Get cell detail to highlight. Well, just put a lof. Yeah, okay. So just take the middle bit, right? Ooh, no, that's fine. No, sorry, it's just, yeah, I'm just worried for you. I'm worried about nothing. Hey. It's also called N, so I'm fine, right? It's like, I might need a space and then put it here. Cool, so that's done, done, done. No required helper. I guess we can test it. C# supremacy, yes. I mean, yeah. I feel like, you know, you're not, I mean, I don't know, definitely something that's not Python, because I think it does more harm than good. And if you're doing, yeah, C# age 17, 18, I mean, you know, there's a line of thinking that says that's kind of child abuse, right? To, at least you're not using .NET, right? So it's not as kind of like fully Microsoft, but you can see how that would be a problem. And you know why Java developers wear glasses? Because they don't see sharp. Right, how are we testing this bad boy? Or bad girl? Naughty girl. 4, yeah, 4 because it needs more than one nest and everything crashes! Is that, maybe it's normal that? Okay, let's just try original. Because like this field, I mean, just this, I haven't touched any of this, right? Unless I messed up like a line break. Let's have a quick look. Original, not PY, and okay. The original doesn't crash when you ask for simulation 4, so it's not, it's my bug. It's not, you know, because they do tell you, literally there are bugs in this code. So, but now there's more bugs in my code. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, fine, you're not wrong. And also, I think that even if you know how to do it, it doesn't help to just assume this is being marked by someone who's not necessarily super Pythonic. So you're just gonna say, if, and you literally just take this, right? If f non-pheromone, and let's go string is equal to the string you want. Which I guess, by the way, I should have a space before, right? Because like we don't want, like that space is inside, and if there's a space after, that's too many spaces. They should have the one space, I think. That makes sense. Here, right, you set s to the bluff and else. You want an else like that, and otherwise you set s to the empty string. And then simply here, you just, yeah, you're just gonna like replace this by s. That's how you do it without putting the if statement on one line. That's good because we'll have examples of both in the diff. But this doesn't tell me why my thing breaks at line 75. Control G to the specific line. Well, this is quite fancy. So this will break as well. No, this doesn't. Okay, fine. Oh, because I'm doing, no, I'm not using the original. 18, submission 4. Oh, okay, no, it was fine. I don't know. Don't know what happened there. So we set simulation 4 and then 5 for multiple. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, fine. You're on 6. I don't even know what we're showing now. Oh, yeah, so the list nests and nests. What does DLOF list? I can't even remember what's DLOF. Oh, dangerously on food stands for, but like, I'll capitalize it? No, because it's not, yeah, list dangerously on food. DLOF, okay, back, quit that, run it again. Simulation number 4. 5 to advance by 5 stages, 30 stages. They're all going to be dead by now. Well, this is what, yeah, this is what they want, right? 6, and it does nothing. No, excellent. Yeah, well, oh yes, I messed it up here, right? This means you've forgotten brackets, right? Like, and this is a lucky one because that only affected my print. Because if you put something when you forget bracket into a compare, then they're not equal objects. The fact they're not the same type, well, actually that might crash. But you know, those are difficult to debug because they can go unnoticed. So, but where was this? Is in my nest. What's the name of this new method we're doing? Get danger pheromone locations. Get danger. Yes, that's the problem. It's me, I'm the problem, and it only has 0, yeah, it's not gonna get, yeah, because the ding dong, the list is dead, right? Let's inspect the cell, it's at 2.4, I believe. 10, what? Okay, no, let's quit it, sorry, let's kill it, let's save it. and run it again. Simulation number 4, 5 to advance 30 stages at the same time, and let's just display the new dangerously. Oh right, okay, cool. Which is weird because the previous one only had. I'm not gonna ask myself what happened. Maybe one of the nest objects. I don't think the nest objects are ever removed. But anyway, those nests are really starving. So let's have a look at. Was it 2? Oops, no, 4, no, whatever. Don't like it. Nightmare 5, 30, and now they are all starving. Yes, okay, 2, 4. So I want to inspect the cell at 2, 4. And it's a DLOF nest. If I inspect the overall detail, it's a nest DLOF. And if I do area details, I don't even know, from 1, 1, 2, 5, 5, which is like the whole map, but doesn't really matter. I've got my nest DLOF. So this was, I'm pretty sure, task 18. Let's have a look at the diff. I need to select the original for compare first. And here. And we compare it with the selected. Maybe I could make a short by clipping a bit of this, but I don't know what bits. Oops, no, don't control Z, some random stuff out. And that's a too big. Yeah, all right, we're here, and then can have it in diff mode. Yay! This is my new code. Right, let's take it from the top. Maybe I should have, like, you know, when we go in diff mode, the camera goes here or something. I have like another camera, I just can't be bothered. Is there anything? We're in diff mode. Yeah, no, is that just a reflection of the, yeah. Okay, whatever. I'm messing with it. Quite, that day, fair enough. First, new choice to display the new method we're going to get to the simulation class, which is going to list all of the nests that are dangerously low on food. And of course, we need to display this option, which I had forgotten initially, but we'll gloss over this. Here, this is the new method to print that. Now, this relies a lot on what we've done underneath, so we'll come back. But once you've done everything underneath, you just iterate over nest. And if there is a danger pheromone in the nest, that is, it's not none, then you just print. And you're using f-string very neatly to get the row, get the column, and the food level. But do not forget your brackets. Although in here it's harmless, if you put in a conditional forgetting the brackets, it's lethal, because wasting like 10 minutes debugging something is not a luxury you have on the morning it happens. Pretty sure it's in the morning, I hope. Now mind you, it was in the afternoon 2 years ago with Simple Puzzle. I don't know, don't matter. Where am I here? This is get details. This is the version, the kind of like longer version, the sort of GCSE level versions. We are already in a conditional that uses get nest in cell, which is really helpful method of simulation to figure out if like there is a nest in the cell we're looking at. So this time we'll want to get the nest object from the same method and then look at its danger pheromone attribute. If it is not none, we set or string to dangerously low on food, otherwise the empty string, and then we just add our string to the end. In one line, if you're on the sort of like, you know, you're a big boy now, or girl, you know, you're kind of you're in year 13, like, frankly, it's not, come on guys, it's not, and gals, people, folks, it's not like year 10 anymore, right? Like, if you want to flex a little bit, although, you know, if the examiner doesn't recognize this and fails to give you the mark because you flex too much, then, well, you know, better go down a legend, right? Like, I mean, you know, as the former education secretary said, I think 2 or 3 years ago, in 10 years you won't remember and care about your A-level marks. And I think that was generous, because I think in 10 months after results day is there. So that was, yeah, the one-line version again in the cell. This is where we actually like setting the pheromone or clearing it. So I'm dubious from an object perspective, right? Because like at this point we've encapsulated that danger pheromone, you know, neatly into the nest that also knows its levels of food. So like, why not make the nest responsible to do this? Bearing in mind that the simulation still has read writes, as it were, read access to the thing if you want to just, you know, go over the list to display all of the low on food nests. In fairness, I also blame the way the question was asked, because like I've only seen this here, and it's unclear whether this applies this, this relates to just this, or like really just this, the whole thing. And if it is the whole thing, really when you do a danger pheromone attribute in the nest class, it should have a getter. Sorry, I'm in diff mode, which is not helpful for this. Right, what I'm saying is like, yeah, there was this great helper methods, wasn't clear whether it's for the whole thing. We have a new danger pheromone attribute. If we do it like cleanly canonical, that should be, sorry, that should be in, we should have a getter and a setter because it is a private attribute, but still, right, whatever. It's needs must when the devil drives the bus. So here I did a simulation that will check the food level of the nest in the loop where we update or advance the stages of the nest after the nest stages has been advanced, because it's in the advanced stage of the nest that the nest consumes its food and reduces the food level. So if it is lower than 50, we create a new danger pheromone to put into this attribute. But if it isn't, if the food goes back up, then we'll reset it to none. This literally could have been a Boolean. It's like this variable, this attribute could have been a Boolean, is the OOP equivalent of this meeting could have been an email, which I guess in year 13 you don't know the joy of this meeting could have been an email. But believe you me, you will find out. Well, I don't know, not if AI, better not think too much about this, don't you worry. I hope you've applied to university, you'll be fine. It's going to be fine, guys. Right, and then we have a new danger pheromone class that is like really pedestrian and very basic. It inherits pheromone, and what we do here, this is quite clever though. My constructor for the new danger pheromone class only accepts row and column, because this is what we need. It's going to be like where the nest is. We could have taken in like even a nest object and asked get row and column from here. And then we hard code, we call its super constructor the pheromone thing with the pheromone in it, the pheromone of the parent class pheromone, passing a 0 instead of the ID of the aunt, so because this pheromone does not have any owner, quote unquote. And then that's the pheromone strength. This is the pheromone decay as per the instructions here. So as that's kind of a nice little 1 hour stream. I will try to get the message out that like really what matters in here is not so much the code as like really just trying all of the tasks, because it's possible that you know how to create a task that inherits another. That's 2 of the marks right here. So yeah, I don't know when the next stream is going to be. I thought that I think that the evening works better. I will also I think that I'm in the last stretch of tasks. I don't know if I'm gonna. Well, I do the extensions. There's still kind of almost a month to 3 weeks to the exam, so we get time. But now, I will do kind of an online class. So if you're interested, there's a form. Can I put the link? I should put the link in the description. It might already be in there. And thank you for watching. And then I'll be back soon with some more on simulation. It's here. What am I doing? Let's just kind of like scroll back up to the title. That didn't work. Just like snip it here. A little bit more. Yes. Okay. Too big. All right. Thank you so much. I'll be back. Send your love. And if you want to know about like a particular task or want me to redo a particular class or whatever, if you get a particular question, get in touch in the comment. I'll